Hey guys, this red 87 924S arrived at the shop today, and this looks like a really nice car. The owner says he just picked it up and it just needs a few things done to it, so let's get started. Alright, so I thought I'd do a quick walk around. This paint looks very nice and the interior's nice as well. This door does tend to jam. I'll have to fix that. You can see the interior here and how nice it is. This is an automatic car, and you can see the radio hanging out there. He wants me to replace that. Let's take you around, and I noticed the antenna wasn't fully extended, and when I touched it, you can see someone stuck a drill bit in there. I did take an antenna off a spare car, so I'll replace that. You can see here the headlights are up. They don't go up and down, so it's probably just the relay, but we'll find out. And then here you can see that when they painted the car, they also painted the bumperettes, and he doesn't like it, so we're going to put some black ones back on there. And this side looks great. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pop the rear hatch, and I'll show you some of the parts that he wants me to replace, and I'll also show you the list of things he wants done. So I've got most of everything sitting out over here. So we've got a new distributor here, new spark plugs, new oil filter, new fuel pump, and a new radio, and then we have distributor button and the wiring adapter kit for the radio, and even the keys for the radio removal. And here is a list. So excuse the handwriting, I just scribbled this down right quick, but it says the coolant fan's not working, the AC isn't working, the wiper is not working, center to steering wheel, the headlights don't go up and down, the driver door jams, there's a rattling somewhere, probably from a heat shield, sunroof isn't working, he wants the belts changed and all the fluids changed. He wants me to check the motor mounts, he wants me to put a chip in it and replace the radio. Also check the brakes and rotors, replace the bumper pads, and replace the door lock knob. Check out some of these loose and cut wires. Change the air filter, change the fuel filter, and change the spark plug and rotor caps. But anyway, here is the door lock knob he was talking about. I got one off the parts car. I was going to show it to you, but the wind's blowing so bad that it keeps blowing everything away. So what I'll do is go ahead and put that on, and that will take at least one thing off the list. So alright guys, I've been going around and looking at everything, trying to figure out where I need to start at. So here's the engine bay, and I did start the car and drive it to this spot, and it seemed like there was a big vacuum leak. And you can see this here doesn't have a clamp on it, and it's very loose, so that is probably the vacuum leak. I think once I get a clamp on that, then I think that'll fix it. But this J-boot is in pretty bad condition, so I'm probably just going to go ahead and replace it altogether. You can see some clips missing. I'll replace those. You can see here that there was something stuck in there, but it wasn't sealing the vacuum, so I stuck a screw in there so that way I could drive it and get a better idea of what was going on with the engine. But as you can see, this was probably the issue all along. And we've got some wires hanging out here. I'll cut these, solder them, and make them look a lot better, and then put everything back the way it was from the factory. Other than that, everything seems to be in pretty good shape. Over here we got just this wire hanging. I'll disconnect that and throw it away. Here are the lines for the automatic transmission that run to the radiator. I'll be replacing these spark plug wires. brakes, of course. Here's what the throttle linkage looks like on an automatic. You can see you have the kick down here. So as you're driving, pulls on that kick down cable. And then I'm going to clean this engine up a little bit. But it doesn't look like it needs a whole lot. Just, you know, some missing clamps, some missing bolts here and there, and some wires put away. And this would be a really nice engine. It's alright, when I drove this car before, you could tell that there was a huge vacuum leak. So I put a clamp on this here. And like I mentioned, I put a screw in there for now. But I want to see if that has fixed the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and try and start it up here. Keys here. Well, let's see what it idles like now. See, the oil pressure looks good and everything. So far, it is idling much better than before. Alright, so putting that clamp on here made this engine run much better. So hopefully that's all the vacuum leaks. I'm going to keep looking around. You can see some of these hoses down there don't look all that great. It still wants to die whenever you let off the throttle and it goes back to idle, but other than that, it's running much better than it was before. So this is a great start. So alright guys, I thought I'd play around with the headlight motor here, and what I did was I replaced this relay with a spare that I had. Here's the one that I took out, and now the headlights are sort of working correctly. I have them on and they went down, and I'll go in here and show you what happens when I turn them off. So you see I have the lights on. Now watch when I turn the switch off. They come back up. So this isn't too big of a fix. All you have to do is go over here to this nut, remove it from the motor, take it off, and then put the lights down where they belong, and then reattach this and make sure everything's adjusted correctly and it's in the right spot, and then the headlights will work properly again. So what probably happened here was when they were repainting the car, they just kind of goofed up how the lights went back on there, and it's not really a big deal. I'm just going to remove this nut here. I don't know if you can see it since I don't have very good lighting here, but I just took the nut off the light here, and then I'm just going to pop it out, and now the headlights are going to go down. I have the switch off, so what I want to do is make sure that the lights are where I want them here, in the spot that I need them to be. And when I put this nut back on, then it's going to know it's in the off position. Now when I turn the lights on, everything should function as it should. So rather than the lights going down when I turn them on, they're now going to work properly. So let's give it a shot. Perfect. So alright, the lights now go up and down as they should, and they still need a little bit of adjustment, but they're okay for now. What I really need to do is get in there to the belts because I want to get as much done as I can today. So I'm just going to put my camera on the tripod and get busy breaking this engine down. Alright, so I got the air box out of the way now, and I got the distributor off. I'm going to go underneath now and remove the belts. Alright, I have the belts off, and now I can get in there and remove this belt cover. Belts came off pretty easy, but the tensioner for the power steering, of course, was broken, and someone had it rigged up with this here. And so I'll look around and see if I have a spare. Alright, so instead of tearing into this belt cover right now, I thought before it got dark, I'd go ahead and look at some of these other little things. This door handle is going to have to be fixed first thing tomorrow since it keeps locking me out. And I also want to look at the sunroof and why the wipers aren't working. Now when I turn the switch, I can actually hear the sunroof trying to operate. So it sounds to me like perhaps, let's see if I can do it here. Sort of hear the motor. You can hear it there. And I think that just means that perhaps the limit switches are out of adjustment. So I'm going to check those right quick. And then I'm going to also check why the wipers aren't working here. Alright, so I got the carpet pulled back out of the way. It was pretty easy. Someone's already removed the screw that was down here and most of the clips were gone. You can see someone has been in here because this cover is just sitting here. So I'll put that to the side. Next I'm going to be looking at these limit switches here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the key on and then I'm going to play around with these limit switches and see what I can get them to do. You can see this just spins around right here and these should be locked down. Now they do move together and you just need to slide them back and forth like this until they do what you want. So alright, I adjusted the micro switches at the motor, and while the sunroof will go down, it won't go back up. So I got to looking at this micro switch here, and you can see that this little tab is sticking out, and that's what actually gets pressed when the sunroof is in. So with it in this condition here, it doesn't know that the sunroof is in, and that's why it won't raise up. So what I need to do is get this put back into position, and that should fix it. So alright, as you can see, I flipped that plastic back over that little metal tab there, and now the sunroof levers are going up. So now I just need to put the sunroof back in, adjust the micro switches one more time to make sure they're in the correct position, and that should fix the sunroof. Alright, I've got the key in now, and when I press this micro switch, you'll see that the arms go up as they should, and they also go down. So once I adjust those micro switches in the rear, this sunroof should operate perfectly. Alright, so I fixed the micro switch between the sun visors last night, and now the sunroof goes up and down. Unfortunately, it does not work 100% as it should. I believe someone replaced the gears at some point, and now the limit switches can't be adjusted properly. So I'll probably have to go in and remove this cover, then adjust these arms here before I can get the limit switches set correctly, because if you'll notice here, I can hold this button until the limit switches turn it off here, which means I can raise the roof, and that's not good. I mean, it can be removed and it can go up and down, but it's not right. So I'll probably go in and fix that. And yesterday I also got the headlights to go up and down properly. Now the lights themselves still don't work, and I'm gonna try another switch and see if that fixes the issue, because I did flip them on a few times last night and they came on once, but I couldn't get them to come on again. So I think it may be the switch, and today I'm going to try and remove this steering wheel and see why the wipers aren't working. I did take a spare stalk and plug it in down here, and that wasn't the issue, but we'll try and mess around with it and see what we can find. And I have to remove it because you can see here that this is bumping the steering wheel for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on with this, if it's just in there wrong. You can see that this doesn't sit in there as it should, but anyway, you can't switch from high beam to low beam here, so I'll have to take this off to fix that anyway, or put in a whole new stalk, but we'll see what's going on. But the first thing I really need to address here is this door, because it opens sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, and then I have to go around the other side and open it. So this would be the first thing that I'm going to work on today. Right, so I have the door handle off now, and you can see what I'm adjusting here. You can see someone has banged this up pretty good, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get the door handle back together with this huge dent in there, so I may have to carefully pull this back out, because every time I go to install it, you see that I'm guessing someone did this so that way they would have a little bit more working room, but unfortunately it's keeping this from coming up where I can attach it to the door handle properly. So if I can carefully bend this back out where it's supposed to be, and I should be able to get this attached and the door should operate perfectly then. I think what's happening is, since this is bent, every time you push the button it's just hanging up on this here. Alright, so I have the door handle adjusted now, and I can easily pop it and it opens every time now. Now that the door handle's fixed and I can get in and out better, I'm going to try and work on these wipers. So alright, I'm going to remove the steering wheel here. I have to center it anyway. It said that it's off center when he drives. And then that will allow me to get in here. I'll have to fix this, as I mentioned, and I'll be able to get my multimeter back there and see what's going on with these wipers. If I have power here, then that's a good sign. And I'll just have to see where the fault is. So I got the nut off, so I'm just going to take the wheel off here. It's alright, as you can see here, that this stalk is not installed correctly for the high beam and low beam switch, and I need to investigate and make sure that I have power going to the stalk for the wipers. So what I'm going to do is remove these 3 screws here, and that will allow me to access these stalks. See, I have these plugs unplugged down here, and you're going to lift up on this and then you will be able to bring these stalks out a bit. There is another plug. It shouldn't fall apart like that, but you know, it happens. And you can see that the high beam light was coming on, so this was not inserted correctly. It should be inserted in there, instead it was sitting like that. Here's the stalks that I removed. And what I'm going to do is use the spare one here and just plug in everything. And I also want to see if this one's going to make the high beams and low beams work, because I'm not sure if it's the switch itself or maybe something not being connected there was causing the issue. Let's see if the wipers work. And as you can see, nothing is happening. So I'm going to go around and we're going to look at the wiper motor. Alright, let's look at the wiper motor here. Oh, I just touched the plug and all the wires came out. So that's not a good sign. I'll try and figure out where all these go and get them cleaned up and see if that won't make the wiper work. It's alright, I've got a spare wiper plug here. So what I'm going to do is draw a diagram of this and then take it back over to the other car and put the wires back in. So alright, I have a little diagram made now, and that's going to tell me where the wires go on this plug here. As you can see, it looks like this. So the gray and black wire will go here, green wire will go here, the brown wire here, the black and white wire will go here, and then the green and yellow will go here at the top. But before I do that, I'm going to be spraying these off with some electronics cleaner, and I'll have to push these little prongs back out here so that way they will clip back into this plug as they should. And I just want to make sure I get these cleaned up really nice. It looks like someone put dielectric grease on here, and that could be why the wiper isn't working. You never want to put dielectric grease on these plugs. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lot of goo on there, and that's probably what it is. But anyway, I'm going to get all that off, clean these up, put it back in the plug, and we'll see if the wipers work. Alright, I have all the wires plugged in correctly now, and it looks great. They're not going to pop back out of there. But now I need to clean the terminals that are actually on the motor itself now. Alright, as you can see, they work perfectly now. There is a huge crack in the glass and the owner is actually having it replaced. Normally I wouldn't do that, but it doesn't matter. So I just wanted you to see that the wipers are working and the windshield's being replaced anyway. So there you go. So alright, when I actually tested the wipers, I was using this stock out of a parts car and they worked perfectly. And as I was getting ready to install the one that came in the car, I wanted to flip it over and clean some of these terminals and these contacts here when I noticed that there's a few terminals missing here. If you flip over the one that works, then you can see there's a few missing there, and everything's just set up a little bit differently, which made me wonder if this even actually ever worked. And I thought that I would go ahead and plug this in and show you what's going on. So let me plug it in here. Now this is the one that came with the car, and let me stick the key in here. But first you can see that this bottom setting is intermittent and this is off normally. When I turn the key on, you'll see that the off setting is also intermittent, and if I turn it down here, we also have intermittent, so that works properly. But the off setting is of course still an intermittent setting, so that may explain why they had the wiper motor unplugged. And then of course this here should be on. So that's on, and then this should be, you can hear the relay clicking as well, which isn't right. And then this should be high, but there is no high, and the relay continues to click, which it should not. So there's no high and there's no way to turn it off. So basically that's high, that's normal, and the relay clicks the entire time. And the only time the relay should click is during intermittent, which you can hear it constantly clicking on and off. And that should be off, but there is no off, so that explains why they had the wiper motor unplugged. So what I'm going to do here is about the only thing that I can do. I'm going to just put this in the back seat for him, and I'm going to install the wiper switch out of the parts car. So I'm going to install this stock set from a parts car. Now everything should work properly. So alright, with the key on, you can see that the wipers are off as they should be, and when I flip this down, they go into intermittent mode, which is correct, and then back to off. And then this should be low speed here, and then high speed, a little bit faster, but you can hear that the relay isn't clicking every time as well. And also in normal speed you can see that the relay isn't clicking like it was with the other wiper stock, and you can turn them off. So there you go. That's why I swapped out the other wiper stock. It was not working properly. So I've got this one in now. Everything is working as it should, and I'm ready to put the steering wheel back on. Alright, so I got the radio pulled out now, and you can see someone has hacked up the wiring and made a mess of things. So I'm going to try and clean this up and get the new radio installed. And you can see here that this has seen better days, and I actually have one from a parts car that I'm going to install. It's alright, last night I removed this cover and I was going to replace it with a spare one that I had, but his inlay was actually laying down in there, so I just took it, cleaned it up, and glued it back in there, and it's actually in better shape than the spare that I had, so that also saved them a little bit of money by not needing a replacement part. So today I'm going to go ahead and install a new radio. You can see that it's out now, and I've already got most of the wires labeled, so I'm going to start working on that. Alright, I'm going to be installing the new radio, and as mentioned, he sent me the keys to remove the radio, but the radio was just hanging out. They didn't put it in a sleeve, so I didn't need them, so I'll just set those aside. And he also sent me the adapter kit, but since someone's already hacked up the harness, there's no way that I can use it, so I'll put that aside as well. And here's the radio that I removed. Well, I'll use that term loosely since it was just kind of hanging out already. But anyway, here is the new radio, and I'm going to go ahead and get this open here. What I'll be doing here is connecting the wires that come from the radio directly into the harness without an adapter, since I can't use the adapter. So here it is. I'm just going to keep this plastic on there for now. We have the instructions here, and then we have everything to install the radio right here. So here is the wiring that I'm going to be connecting to the factory wiring there. For dealers and display purposes only, so that way they can't remove the faceplate. And then here's the remote. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug my soldering iron in, and we'll be ready to install this. So alright, I've got the wires tinned and I'm getting ready to install them. I also have a diagram here and these wires labeled. So as you can see here, for the speakers, the left front is going to be the white wires connecting to the white wires here, and then I'm going to connect the black wire here to the silver, then the red to the violet, and then the yellow to the green. Alright, I've got the radio connected now. Unfortunately, the antenna cable has been cut, so I'll have to install a new antenna before I can put the radio in. So for right now, I just used a USB stick, and that way you can see that it works perfectly. And then tomorrow I'll go put a new antenna in, and I'll be able to install the radio. Alright guys, I got the new radio in last night and it's working perfectly. The only thing I need to do before I can mount it is install the new antenna, so I picked that up today. Get out here and show you. So here's the antenna I'm going to be installing. It comes with some adapters here, so that way it will replace this. So basically I'm going to be removing this entire thing and then unscrewing this cap, and then I'll pull what's left of the coax out. And you can see this one has a brand new coax and adapters, and it will look like this when I'm done. I already have one of these antennas on this car here. Now the only problem with it is that it does wobble around a little bit in the wind, but other than that it gets great reception, so that's why I'm going to use it on this car. So alright, tomorrow they're coming out and they're going to be replacing this windshield. As you can see, it has a huge crack here. I'm going to try and get footage of that as they're doing it, but I also picked up some new wiper blades, so that way I don't scratch up the glass with the old ones. Alright, in order to remove the antenna, you just need to grab something like a scraper or a really wide screwdriver and turn it till this ring comes off here, and that's going to bring this with it. And you can set that aside, and you can just push all this down into the fender there. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to have to do is remove this wheel here and the charcoal canister so that way I can get in there and install the new antenna. Alright, I have the wheel off now. Next I'm going to be removing this charcoal canister. You can see that there is a bolt up there at the top and one down here at the bottom. Once those two bolts are removed, then the charcoal canister just drops out of the way like this, and then you can get your hand in there to where the antenna is. So right here you can see the end of the antenna wire that's been cut off. And what I'm going to be doing is pushing this out. As I push it out, I will be able to pull the antenna through here. And once it's removed, then I'll install the new one. Alright, I have the old antenna out now, and unfortunately I wasn't able to remove it from the outside of the car, so I had to cut it here and then pull it out from the radio side because it just kept snagging somewhere. But anyway, here is the new antenna, and as I mentioned, it comes with a brand new wire and some adapters down here so you can make it fit your car perfectly. I paid about $15.99 for this at AutoZone, so I'm going to get it open here and we'll put it on. So alright, I have the new antenna unpackaged now, and as you can see, this is the wire that you'll run to the radio, and then you're just going to put this back where the old mast was. And you can see that comes with different adapters, and you'll just choose which one fits the curvature of your car the best, so that way it will sit straight. For instance, if you have a car and it's going on a trunk or something that's flat, then you would just use this one, but I believe I used this one on my car. So all you do is remove this nut here and put the appropriate one on. So alright, I got the new antenna on and it works great. I did decide to use the original base here since the ones that came with it didn't really fit the curvature of the car and it wasn't sitting straight. It still isn't, but it looks better than it did. I'll put some Mother's Back to Black on there and it should make it look a little bit better. But anyway, I'm now ready to install the radio. I thought I'd take you in here and show you that it now picks up stations. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Alright, so the radio is now installed and it's in there nice and snug. I'll go ahead and put the key in so I can turn it on. Alright, works great, looks good. So the next thing I'm going to do is, he asked me to look at some of these wires that are hanging down over here. And as you can see, not connected to anything at all. And then they just run up into the firewall. So what I'll do is I'll pop the hood here and I'll go around and just remove those. Should be able to see them over here. Yes, this should be it right here. Let's see where this runs down to. It runs down towards that harness. And then it seems to go to a box here. Can't say I've ever seen this before. But it's not connected to anything, so I'll probably just remove the whole thing. Alright, I removed the bracket and pulled all that wiring out. It appears to belong to a radar detector of some kind that mounts on the front of the car, or at least this is the remote unit of it. Probably connected to something else at one point, but I imagine this isn't much good anymore. Alright, so today I'm going to be looking at why the cooling fans aren't working. It looks like everything is plugged in, so what I'll probably do is first check to see if the fans come on when I turn the air conditioning on. If they do, then that may tell me that the relay is good, and then I can try jumping the thermo switch in the radiator to see if that's the issue. So I'll go ahead and turn the key on here, and I'll turn the AC on. I do hear something running. Just one of the fans is running. I believe they should both run. I'll check my car just to make sure. But for now, at least that's good news. It may not be the relay. It could just be something is wrong with that one fan, or it could be the thermo switch. So what I will do is I'll check my car and see if both fans are running, and then I'll jump this thermo switch here, and if nothing happens, then I'll look at the relay. Alright, so I'm going to perform the same test in my car. I have the key switched on, and I'm going to turn the AC on. And like I mentioned, I believe both fans should run. As you can see, that one's running as well. So yes, both fans should be running. So at least one fan is working. But I'll have to see what exactly is going on here. But both fans should be running with the AC on. So I pulled the wires off the thermo fan switch on the radiator, and they are very corroded. So I'm going to clean these up, and I'm going to jumper them just to see if I can't get the fans to run. So alright, what I did was I put the key in the switch and turned it on. Then I jumped the wires going to the thermo fan switch. At that point, they should have both come on, but absolutely nothing happened at all. So I went in and cleaned that corrosion off, and then I plugged them back into the switch, and then I turned the AC on, but this fan still did not run. So I decided to pull the relay out here, and you see that there's two relays in here. You have one up top and you have one down here. And what I like to do with them is just make sure you can push on them and they'll close. This one seems to be working fine. It does have a little bit of corrosion on there, but it seems to be working fine. But as you can see here, this one up top is melted, and when I do that same thing, I can't close it. So this may be the issue. I'm going to get a spare fan relay, and I'm going to see if that fixes the issue. Alright, so I have a spare fan relay here, and I have no idea if it works, but I'm just going to plug it in and see if both fans will run. Alright, so what I did was I popped the new relay in, and both fans are working perfectly. Now I'll try and get down here and show you. So that's great news. The only thing I need to do now is verify that the thermo fan switch is good, and make sure that they come on when the engine gets running. So right at the moment I have the key switched on, but the AC is off, so the fans are not running. Now I need to verify that they're going to come on when the engine gets warm, and since I can't run the engine, what I'm going to do here is just take the two wires and connect them together. So I'll need to unplug them from the switch. And see if I can get my hands down in here. You want to make sure that your hands are out of the way for this. Alright, so both fans are coming on whenever I jumper them now. That didn't happen before. So the only thing I really need to do is plug it back in, and once I get the engine running again, I'll verify that the thermo switch is working correctly. Alright, now when I turn the AC on, both fans are running, and also when I jump the wires to the thermo fan switch, they come on. So I'm going to assume at the moment that the thermo fan switch is good. I will verify that once I get the engine running again, but for now I believe that the relay has fixed the issue, so I'm going to move on. The next thing I need to do is, I'll go ahead and take the key out here, replace the headlight switch, since whenever I turn the lights on, I end up having to wiggle this switch to get the lights to come on. So I have a new switch here, and I'm just going to swap it out. Alright, I swapped another switch in there, and unfortunately This one did not fix the issue, so it may not be the switch at all. It may be a deeper issue, so I'll have to dig into that. So I was looking around the car, and you can see here that this wire is broken, and these two are just crimped together. I figured I could just go ahead and clean these up. Also, you can see that the under hood light's just laying here. So I've got a bulb out, and I'll go ahead and reinstall it. Alright, so I got these wires cleaned up and I pulled the sleeve back over them so no one will ever have to know that they're repaired. And then I ran the wiring back the way it's supposed to go and reattached the underhood light. Now the reason why I think all of this wiring was removed is because I believe this is a hood off an earlier car. As you can see here, these have the early windshield nozzles on here. The later cars, and including the 924S, should have the heated nozzles. So there are no way for me to hook up the wiring that goes to them. You can see that the wiring is right here. So I've just left it in there. And you can also see they're disconnected because there should be a hose that runs to them and then runs down here back to the washer tank, but none of that is here because I believe they swapped the hood. All right, so this is one of my 87 924Ss that I'm currently working on, and it has all the plumbing and wiring, so I thought I'd show you everything. You can see the wires connected right there and all the hoses. Also note that the sprayer nozzles are larger on the later cars, so the hole in the hood is larger, and I'll go ahead and show you what they look like out here. So as you can see, it's much larger than the ones that are on the early cars. And then all that plumbing connects to this one here, and you can see the hose that runs back to the tank over here. All right, next I'm going to be adjusting the passenger door handle as well. While it's not as bad as the other side was, you still have to squeeze it a few times before it decides to open. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so I got this door handle fixed now, and it opens and closes as it should now. You can hear something thumping around in the door. It looks to be where someone put an aftermarket door lock actuator in there. And I have the key here, but apparently someone has changed this at some point because the key doesn't work, so I can't actually test the lock here. But other than that, the door handle seems to be working perfectly. So alright, the next thing I'm going to do is swap out these bumper pads. As you can see, someone painted them and the new owner doesn't like it, so I have another 924S I'm going to take the bumper pads off of and then swap them onto this bumper. Now my first concern was that perhaps they had painted the bumper pad and the bumper at the same time, so if I tried to remove these I was going to damage the paint on the bumper, but they do appear to be painted separately, so that's good news. It looks like I should just be able to take these off and then put the other ones right back on. So alright, I got the bumper off now, so what I'm going to be doing is just swapping new pads onto them. I brought out this first 924 bumper here, but unfortunately this pad on this side is damaged and I won't be able to use it. Fortunately, I have another 924S bumper that still has a good driver's side pad on it, so that's what I'll use. I've already sold this one, otherwise I would have used those, but using these two bumpers, I should be able to make the bumper look the way the owner wants. So alright, I now have all the bumper pads off. The only thing I need to do is clean these black ones up and they'll be ready to go back on. Alright, that's much better. As you can see, I got the bumper pads cleaned up and the bumper put back on, and I also think this looks much better. Alright, so today I'm going to be doing the same with the rear bumper. I'll be removing these rear bumper pads and replacing them. Alright, I have the bumper off now, and I'm also going to be replacing these corner pieces here that are painted. Here's the 87 924S that I'll be pulling the parts from. Alright, I have the other bumper off now. Next I'm going to remove the side pieces. Alright, so I have the bumper pads off now. You can see the bumper here. Here are the pads I'm going to be installing. They're in pretty good shape. I just need to clean them up. Unfortunately, some of these studs have rusted out, which is a pretty common problem. Normally, I would just order a good used set and call it a day, but unfortunately, I don't have the time to order those, so I'm going to make these work. What you can do is remove this metal that holds the studs in, and then use a coarse thread screw to hold them on, and it works great. No one will ever notice. And I do have a good set of 944 pads. Unfortunately, they won't look right on the 924S, since you can see how they look different here, because the 944 has a cutout for the bumper cap on the ends, and I'm just going to have to try and make these work since this is the only set that I have. Alright, I began installing these bumper pads here, and as I mentioned, these studs had completely rusted out, so I was going to install them with a coarse thread screw like this one here. This normally works fine if you break the stud while you're removing the pad, but if the stud was broken before then, you may end up with a warped pad like this one is, and even though it makes it look okay, I'm not really happy with them, so I'm not going to use them. I'm going to go ahead and order another set. Alright, so the new bumper pads came in today. Let's see what we got here. I need to get this bumper put back on. See that these are in much better shape. also got this package here. Reseal kit. So I'll go ahead and put this away. And we'll get these bumper pads put on. So this here is a 944 bumper pad. You can see that it has this slot here for the rear corner piece. Trying to hold it up here so that way you can see the difference between the two. If I put this 944 bumper piece on the 924S, then I'm going to have a gap here. So I'm going to go clean these up a little bit and they'll be ready to install. Alright, I got the bumper pads on and this rear bumper looks much better. There is a very slight gap here that I'm hoping will go away as these adjust to being back on the bumper. Maybe they sat on the shelf a little too long or something. But otherwise it looks pretty good. And I tried to straighten up this bumper the best that I could. But on the other side you can see where they didn't paint it. And there's not really much that I can do about it. See, that's extended as far as it's going to go. You could see this before, but I've tried to push it back in there a little bit, but everything's sitting as it should. They just didn't do a good paint job there. Alright, so the guy from Safe Flight just called and said that he's on his way. He's going to be replacing this windshield. As you can see, there is a huge crack in it here. So he actually came out one day last week, but it was pouring rain and he ended up having the wrong windshield. They had the flush mount windshield with the antenna inside of it listed for this car, and it should be the early windshield that's recessed a bit. If you put the late windshield in this car, there'll be a gap inside about like that between the windshield and the panel here. So I don't think the owner wanted that, even though it does look a little nicer on the outside. Also, you have to pay extra for the antenna, and there's no need for it since he has an aerial on the outside here. Alright, so a bunch of new parts came in for this car and I'm going to be unboxing those in just a moment. As you can see, I've already got the accessory belts off and the air box out. I'm going to be removing this intake That way I can change the air oil separator seals. You can see there's a lot of muck in the throttle body there. And also today what I'm going to be doing is removing the belt cover, removing the belts, the water pump, and the oil cooler. I need to change those seals. Just looking around the engine bay, it looks to be in pretty good shape. You can see that fuel lines still look good. And this is the 88 jumper. If you have an 87, you want to get rid of that immediately. All the 87s that I've seen were cracked up really badly. And I'm going to see if I can't dig out a new dipstick. I have one somewhere, but I'll have to look around. But anyway, I'm going to unbox those parts now and show you what we got. It's alright, you can see the packages in there, and I'll get those out and unbox them in a moment. For now, I thought I'd show you the new windshield because it looks so good. Safelite came out and installed it the other day. I still have to install the wiper arms and the new wiper blades, but I told him that I would do that last before I gave it back to the customer in case I end up bumping the stalk or something. I don't want to end up scratching this glass. So yesterday I made this harness, got it installed. Also installed these new headlights. And I'll put a link to that video on the screen now in case you want to watch that. I'll go ahead and turn these out. I do have the battery charging because I try and make sure they don't kill the batteries around here. It happens when you're installing headlights and installing radios. You can run the battery down fairly quickly. As I mentioned, I fixed this door handle here. Here are some of the packages. I'll go ahead and get these out and set them on the trunk back here. Alright, so I have the packages here. I have two from Pelican Parts, one from Rock Auto, and I believe this one is from Crutchfield. I'll go ahead and open this one up first. Yes, this is the Crutchfield order. Doesn't have a return address, but it's the only thing it could be. So we've got some new speakers for the rear. They're the Club 6420 by JBL. I won't open these right now. I'll go ahead and open this Rock Auto box. This appears to be the water pump. Do the oil cooler seals before I can install this. So I'll go ahead and get the old water pump off today if I have time. I'll open this Pelican order here. Alright, I got a new timing belt and a new balance shaft belt. Let's go ahead and get this open. new air filter. Got some new rollers to go with those new belts and water pump. So these are all the rollers here. Then I got a new nipple for the brake booster because this broke off and had a vacuum leak. Let's open this bag here. Got our new air oil separator seals. Let's see what this is. A new DME relay. Should be a fuel filter. New reference sensor. And I believe this is another roller. This is for the balance shaft. It's alright, I thought we'd take a look at some of these new parts. You can see I have the new oil pump drive sleeve here. The new balance shaft tensioner. The new eccentric roller for the balance shaft. A new roller for the water pump. And a new roller for the auto tensioner. I also have a new DME relay. Alright guys, as you can see, I still have a long way to go on this car. In the next part, I'm going to be working on the engine and trying to get everything put back together. But for now, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to like and subscribe. I upload videos every week. Also, come join us on Facebook. I'll put a link in the description below. And I also want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. Making these videos every week can be pretty hard and very difficult. If you'd like to support me as well, I'll also put a link to that below. But anyway guys, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.